Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to line our loaf pan with our baking paper. So you're going to line your baking tin with some baking paper. All right, so to do that, now you'll need to have some hanging over on the edge. I'm pushing it in, and then you can either use scissors or simply tear it, which is much quicker. The reason that we're tearing it is so that it will fit beautifully into our loaf pan. Folding that down a little bit so it'll stay. Okay. Excellent. And then I'm going to put it at the side. So get your food processor jug ready, whether that's your Thermomix or whether it's a blender or whatever you're going to use. And we're going to do 3 layers. So we're going to do the bottom layer, which is like crispy. And then we're going to do a middle layer, which is like softer. And then we're going to do the top layer, and that's that beautiful pink berry mixture. So good. We don't cook it. It doesn't get baked. It just gets chilled into the freezer. Wonderful. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our 1 cup of dates straight into our food processor. 1 cup of dates. As you know, I always measure at the side. So 1 cup of dates. Feel your dates to make sure they've already been pitted. So pitted means that the little stone or the pit has come out. If it hasn't, then you make sure that you do, otherwise you'll wreck your food processor. So 1 cup of dates. Pop that straight in. And that's what's going to help it stick together, because we're going to break that all. The food processor is going to break that all up beautifully. All right, so 1 cup of dates, and then 1 cup of cashews. When you do this on your own, it will take you hardly any time at all to do it. Don't put the cashews away because you're going to use them in a minute. I'm just double checking. I think I've got a bit too much here. Certainly do. 1 cup of cashews, and we're adding those to the dates. All right, the next thing we're going to do is add 3 tablespoons of coconut oil. Now, if your coconut oil isn't, if your coconut oil isn't melted, you'll have to melt that either in the microwave or on the stovetop. I'm going to pop mine in the microwave, so I'm going to measure out 3 tablespoons, and it needs to be oil, it's oil, but it needs to be in a liquid form, not in a solid form. The beauty of coconut oil is it changes consistency. So I've popped my coconut oil into a jug, and then I'm going to pop it in my microwave for about 40 seconds, and then I'm going to see how it goes. While I'm melting the coconut oil, I'm going to measure out 1/4 cup of shredded coconut. So 40 seconds for my oil, and then 1/4 cup of shredded coconut. Opening my packs, I'm making sure that I don't cut towards me, always keeping my blade, even when I'm just opening up the pack, I'm keeping that blade out of the way. So the shredded coconut is a little bit different than the desiccated coconut because it's not broken down as much. I'm just going to mix it up myself. I need this. The food processor that I'm using isn't fantastic. Once you've added your coconut oil to your mixture, I'm going to read the recipe to you. In a food processor, pulse. My microwave to finish. In a food processor, pulse all the ingredients until mostly smooth. This will take 2 to 3 minutes. The dates should be totally sticky and the cashews should be ground. So don't worry if it's taking you longer than you think it would take. That's what's going to happen. So 2 to 3 minutes. You might want to mute me because my machine is so loud. So if you want to mute me and then come back when you're finished and check out what your mixture looks like. I'm pouring my mixture in. Such a terrible sound. All right, when you're ready, just unmute yourself and just say to be done, because I can't see the screen. Today, I'm having a moment. I'm really having a day. Turn your dish around so that you can get it nice and flat and even. We want it to go into the corners. I'm using my spatula. And then I'm using the edge of my spatula, or the very tip of it, and I'm going to go all the way around the edge to make sure that it's nice and flat. So we want it flat so that when you cut it into bars, it's going to be even all the way across. Perfect. All right, fantastic. When you've done that, pop that into the freezer. So you don't need to cover it with anything at this stage. So this is step 4, place in the freezer while you make the next layer. So I'm going to pop that into my freezer. Doing that, it's going to be nice and firm. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is, if your food processor looks like mine, it's really lovely and dirty. So we're going to wash the food processor. Be super careful if you've never used a food processor before, whether you've got a spinning bit or a blade. You'll need to be really careful of those blades because they're sharp. So let's take 60 seconds. Be careful, wash everything out, wipe it, and then come back. The next thing we're going to do is add 1 cup of cashews. 1 cup of cashews. What have I got there? So this is our middle layer that we're using. And I'm just going to give them a bit of a tap to make sure that we've got the right amount. Perfect. 1 cup of cashews. Beautiful. 1 cup of cashews, and then 1/3 of a cup of coconut cream. Now, if your coconut cream is solid on the top, you might need to spoon it out. I know that mine is not. Every coconut can is different. Some of it will have separated, mine is together. Beautiful. 1/3 of a cup of coconut cream. 1/3 of a cup of coconut cream. So we've got 1 cup of raw cashews, 1/3 of a cup of coconut cream, and then we're going to add 1/2 a cup of shredded coconut. And shredded coconut it's got a natural sweetness to it. It's not highly sweet, but it does have a natural sort of sugar sweetness. So we've got 1 cup of cashews, 1/3 of a cup of coconut cream, 1/2 a cup of shredded coconut, and the next thing we're going to add is 1/4 of a cup of agave nectar. So we've got, which is actually made in Mexico, my one. If you're using rice malt syrup, use the same amount. Oops, daisy, way wrong. I'm just about to use the wrong measuring cup. So 1/4 of a cup of agave syrup. So it's slightly runnier than honey or rice malt syrup. Great. And then you can start processing your mixture again. And the recipe says repeat the process. It should take 2 to 3 minutes to get smooth. 2 to 3 minutes to get smooth. So if you want to do that again, look, you can hear how loud and horrible my machine is. So please forgive me for that. You might want to mute yourself or mute me. All right. All right, so you might want to have a look at your mixture. Now I can see that the edges have started to kind of get solid, but my middle layer is definitely soft still. That is okay. I'm using my spatula to get as much of this beautiful puree out. And I'm layering it on top of that layer. Again, this is messy, so I always turn my mixture so that the mixture is working for me. I've got a whole lot of bits up there. Fantastic. Then once you've done that, pop it back into the freezer. One cup of mixed berries. One cup of mixed berries. Beautiful. All right, 1 cup of mixed berries. And then 2 tablespoons of your agave syrup or your rice malt syrup. 2 tablespoons. Even though the berries, like the strawberries and the blueberries, are sweet, the raspberries can be a little bit sour. So we need something to counteract that. All right, so 2 tablespoons of your syrup. Fantastic. 2 tablespoons of your syrup. So I've got in there 1 cup of berries, 2 tablespoons of agave syrup, and then we're doing 1/2 cup of coconut cream, 1/2 cup. Again, I'm just scraping out my measuring cup to make sure that I've got enough. 1/2 cup of coconut cream. 1/2 cup of coconut cream. And then 1/2 cup of shredded coconut. 1/2 cup of coconut cream. 1/2 cup of shredded coconut. Brilliant. And then we're going to do the same thing, is process all of that. What have we got? So we're at 7. Add all of your ingredients for the top layer in the food processor. Once totally smooth, about 2 minutes, mix in the whole berries. Oh, yep, we'll do that in a minute. Remove the loaf pan from the freezer and spread on top. All right, so we're going to process this layer here and it'll turn beautiful and pink. Of course, now my food processor leaked. Goodness me, I'm having a night tonight, aren't I? Oh my goodness. I feel like my mixture is a little bit too runny, so I'm going to add another 1/4 cup of desiccated coconut. So my mixture too runny, so I'm adding another 1/4 cup of shredded coconut. I'm going to layer my mixture. Oh, yummo. Now, if you want to dot, if you've got any extra berries and you want to dot some whole berries in the top, you can do that. Oh, that's my whole one. So I'm going to just put some of my whole berries and just dot them through and push them in. I haven't got blueberries here, but beautiful. And I want to have as much berries as when we bite or when we cut into it when it's frozen. We do want, you want to be able to see a couple of those whole berries in your slice. Fantastic. Excellent. All right. So step 9 says freeze the entire dish for at least 2 hours before serving into slices, and you can keep frozen up to a week. Now, I would suggest that you don't cover it for at least 2 hours, but then if you're going to have it tomorrow, which I suggest that's probably when it will be properly ready, I suggest that you then, in 2 hours, put a reminder on to cover the top of it or wrap it in some cling wrap. And the reason you want to wrap it in cling wrap is that it will then not take on that horrible freezer taste or burn the top of it. So, and then it'll be a beautiful frozen berry slice. Fantastic. And that's it.